go. I'm going to do a little countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're on. Hey, welcome everyone. I'm Tom Murphy, and this is Trinidad Now here on Trinidad Times TV. With me today is current Mayor Phil Rico. Phil, thank you for joining me today.
Tom, thank you for asking me to be here with you today. I was looking forward to it.
Well, this is important. Elections are important. Governing is important. And too many people take it for granted.
Yeah.
We live in one of the greatest countries in the world, and all politics is local. And this is where people have a chance to influence things.
Yeah.
So you and I have spoken many times, but and you're a native of Trinidad. I've been here this year would be almost 40 years, but a lot of people don't know you. I've been told that weekly new people are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So you've served 3 terms.
Yes.
You're running for your 4th. So let's tell people a little bit about your background.
Okay, like I said, my name is Philip Rico. I was actually born and raised in Weston. And they say, how were you born in Weston? I said, well, I was born in my parents' home.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in 1951. I'm currently 70 years old. I'm married to my wife, Beatrice, or they call her B.
Mm-hmm.
Been married for 50 years. And we have 2 children. We have 2 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. And a dog, of course. Yeah, everybody's got to have a dog.
True.
So, and a dog. Like I said, I went to Primero High School, graduated in 1969. Went to college here at Trinidad State Junior College for 2 years. And then my wife and I met. We stayed here ever since.
Mm-hmm.
My background pretty much is in the building materials industry, where I worked for 43 years, many of those years in management.
Right.
So, I do have I've seen the ups and downs and the cycles that have happened here in Trinidad, going back to, the 1950s and up to today.
Right.
So, I do have a lot of history behind what I know of the cycles that have happened over the many years here in Trinidad and Los Animas County.
Right. Your father was a coal miner, right?
Yes, my dad was a coal miner. My mom, just worked in the home. She did work outside of the home too, and both very, very hardworking people. And I had a good childhood. They were good parents.
Right. So the reason I'm bringing this up is coal mining is coming back in Los Animas County, and you're very, very familiar with that.
Yes, as a matter of fact, my dad worked, and he actually retired from the Frederick mine when it closed down when it was 1959.
Okay.
He worked in the mines for 40 or 50 years. I'm not sure what the time frame was.
Right.
The thing is that everybody was saying that coal is dead here in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're fortunate that we now have the Alliance group that is it Alliance? Anyway, they are bringing coal back.
Right.
And the coal here is metallurgical coal, which can be used for high coking coal.
Mm-hmm.
For steel production. I was talking one day to the people from the mine, and the coal that is here is because I'm not really sure if there might be one company in the entire United States today that actually makes iron from raw iron ore.
Right.
And that's one of the things that they are going to be using this coal for. They're going to be shipping it out of the country, from what I understand. I'm not sure if it's Japan, India, and I'm not sure where else.
Right.
But yeah, they are.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that we've kind of come full circle.
Exactly.
So, and the jobs and everything that they're providing. But so now we know a little bit about your history. There are a number of issues. You've been the mayor now for almost 6 years.
Correct.
And there's a lot on your plate. So there's a lot that we want to talk about.
Okay.
And if I miss anything, we'll talk about a couple subjects, maybe take a break, talk
Okay.
about a couple more subjects. And if I forget anything, you can remind me.
Okay.
First of all, what even prompted you to run for city council or for mayor? I mean, you went from not being on council to mayor, which is a big step.
Well, you got to blame Pat Fletcher to some degree for that part of it. I was still working then, and one day she approached me and she said, Phil, have you ever considered working or running for mayor? And at that time I told her no. So a couple of months went by and she came back. She says, Phil, you need to reconsider. And I said, okay. So I decided to run for mayor, and at that time she was still on council.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting part of it was after I took my seat one day, she came back to me and she says, Phil, out of curiosity, why did you run for mayor and not for city council first?
Right.
And I thought, well, you asked me to. So that's kind of the history of stuff. But as far as the reason why, I felt like I recognized the need for change in Trinidad.
Right.
At that time, prior to that, the few years before that, there was a lot of instability within city council, uh, within the city manager's job. So there were some issues, and I just found the other big issue that I had recognized is that um, I don't remember, and I've heard this multiple times since then, that there was not a lot of council or the mayor traveling to Denver, to the state capital, to raise our hand
Right.
to say, Trinidad is here. We are part of Colorado.
Well, let's talk about that. That's one of the things that we have down here. How important is it?
I can't really state the importance of that. I mean, it is huge because that is how you can gain. When you go up and you meet these people, the state legislators, and not only the state legislators, but be involved with other mayors across the state, being part of the Colorado Municipal Group up there. And one of the things that we did right in 2018, I believe it was, we hired a lobbyist, and Debbie Wagner is the lady's name. And every time I go to Denver, I'll call her up and I'll tell her I'm coming.
Right.
And she said, "Is there anybody that you would like to talk to, or an issue that you have?" And then she'll say, "Well, maybe we can meet with this person." So those dividends, I think, have paid off tremendously by going to Denver. I've testified a few times up in Denver on a couple of initiatives. Uh, I've got to know uh, several of the legislators. I've got to know the past House president or Speaker of the House. The current Speaker of the House, I've not met the person, but the current Senate President, Leroy Garcia, I've met him. He's from Pueblo,
Mm-hmm.
and have developed a relationship with him. So developing those relationships is what you can really get noticed for. Developing relationships with your philanthropic groups is tremendous because through the Space to Create project, uh, they provided us a lot of money. The philanthropy groups, the Betcher
Right.
Foundation, the Gates Foundation, and some others. Also, some of the government entities, Office of Economic Development and International Trade, CHAFA, which is something that Tara Marshall, I, and Mr. Michelson, uh, when we were trying to get the money, the tax credits for the Space Great project in 2019, I think in May, a group went up and they testified for CHAPA because this was worth $10 million in tax credits.
Right.
And they failed. And they came back and they asked me, well, what do you want to do? And I said, we want to go after it again. So it was myself, and then there was another person, Mr. Michelson and Chair Marshall. We went up the second time, excuse me, and we testified. And of course, after, I don't know, about a month later, we received notice that we'd received that it was the 9% tax credits, which would amount to about $10 million in tax credits. So that was a tremendous boost for what we had to do. Another thing that came up along
But
with it,
and what did we use that money for?
that was for the Space to Create
Great.
project to build it.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, what happened was in the same year, and this was like, I'm guessing December 10th to 15th. Tara Marshall, of course, she was one of the directors that she was working for the city of Trinidad at the time. She called me up in a panic. And she said, Mayor, she said, we're about to lose this project. I said, what do you mean? She said, we have a gap of $870 or $875,000. She said, what are we going to do? And I told her, what we need to do is let's get all of the partners that have been involved with this. And I don't care if they meet here. I don't care if they meet in Pueblo, Springs, or Denver. So she called them up. We had a meeting in Denver and sat down. And I told all the partners, I said, two big reasons why we need to get this done. One is that the city has contributed, 12% of our general revenue fund toward the project already. Second of all, this was the project that the governor of Colorado, which is Governor Hickenlooper at the time, this was his baby, because we were the demonstration project, out of the chute. And I said, for those two reasons, we need to get this done. So this was like on a Monday we met, and this is like probably the 20th or something like that of the month that we all met. Well, each one of those people had to go back and talk to their boards or commissions. We had talked that we could put in X amount of dollars ourselves. I can't remember if it was $150,000. I think that's what it was, that we could pull from our funding, that we would, if it all come together. Well, we got notice, I think, probably around the 25th or so. They all came through, and we got the $875,000 plus an additional $300,000 to go with it. So that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Is that being able to know these people face to face and to say, these are the issues we have. How can we approach these? What's the answer to these?
Right.
Is there any funding out there to help us out? And that's why I say it's so important that we as the mayor, city council people, those that want to reach out to these people at the state level and other municipalities to get to know what they're doing. And they're willing to help us.
Right.
They really are.
A two-part question on that. Is it possible to speculate that in the past that we might have missed opportunities, and moving forward, because assuming maybe you get elected, this would be your last term, what would you, in the second part of this question, what would you lay out as a foundation for the next person that would be mayor to say, here's what you need to pay attention to. Here's what you need to do. So speculating past and then future.
As far as past goes, I can't really say. I'm sure there are probably some, I don't know, the staffing they had prior to that. I don't know how in tune they were to listening and reading all of the legislative issues that were coming down.
Right.
So I really don't know how much they look. Of course, some of the mayors prior to that, because a lot of that information comes into the mayor's office.
Okay.
And of course now we have technology, through computers or texting or whatever, that we find out what all these legislative issues are that are coming down the pike. I pay attention to those.
Right.
Debbie Wagner keeps me abreast, and the city hall and all the council abreast of all these legislative issues that are coming down the pike. So,
but what would you hand after this term or the next term? What would you say? Don't let this go away.
Exactly. I would say you need to stay. Whether it's in January or 2 years from now, whoever the mayor is, I would say you need to follow in my footsteps and to continue to travel up north. You need to be professional. You need to be dressed appropriately. You cannot go dressed like a rag.
Right.
Because these people look at you. Believe me or not, they look at you as to your attire. Because you go up there and everyone is dressed in suits. So they look at you and they want you to be presentable. They want you to be able to do a presentation to them appropriately. You need to address them appropriately. When you testify at a commission, you need to testify appropriately. You need to identify the chairperson. You need to identify the commission people. So all of that is encompassed. So that is what I would leave to the next mayor. Those are the things that they have to follow. And to reach out to these people. Don't be afraid to call up the mayors and say, I've got a problem. I've got an issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, just so you can capture your breath, we're just going to take a short break here. I have to key up the commercials because I'm the camera guy and everything else. So we're going to just take about a 1 minute break.
We pride ourselves on the best customer experience.
I can play like 2 minutes of commercials here.
There's so happy that we were able to find the right car, and we were able to go through the process quickly and very easily.
Plus, we offer you the best brands: Ford, Chevy, Hyundai, Audi, Kia, Genesis, Lincoln, Toyota, Honda, and Mercedes-Benz.
And always the best deals. Experience why Colorado drives feel long.
Freedom isn't free. This time of year, give thanks and help our veterans.
Thank you for protecting our freedom.
Thank you for your sacrifices.
Gracias al apoyo que dan a nuestra comunidad.
Thank you for keeping us safe.
Our veterans, America's heroes, they fought for our country. Now many fight for their lives. Please donate today. Your gift will make a difference. Help us, help ours.
At Mount Carmel Veterans Service Center.
Lisa Camarillo here with Phil Long Toyota. Come sell me yours and I'll sell you mine. We want your trade. Plus, new Toyotas are arriving every day. Drive a brand new 2021 Toyota Camry, RAV4, or Tacoma with our one-pay lease offers. Just one payment of $15,000 for 36 months of worry-free driving.
Visit us today and get a cup of coffee on me, Lisa Camarillo.
If we don't have it, we'll get it. Experience why Colorado drives Phil Long.
The best pre-owned deals are happening now at Phil Long Ford of Raton. We have 1,200 pre-owned vehicles to choose from. Payments from just $199 a month, just $199. Plus our goal, 100% credit approval. And this month only, enjoy summer with the $29.95 oil change. Visit us today or online anytime at ratonford.com. Get small town service and big city selection. If we don't have it, we'll get it. Experience why New Mexico drives Phil Long.
And I mean, especially the senators, they are,
the best customer experience.
they were top of the line. I mean, you just knew in talking to them, it was like you were saying, you had to dress right, you had to speak right, you had to, there was no, like, I'm going to speak now. It was like, no.
Very easily.
Plus, we offer you the best brands. Ford, Chevy, Hyundai, Audi, Kia, Genesis, Lincoln, Toyota, Honda, and Mercedes-Benz.
And always the best deals. Experience why Colorado drives Phil Long.
That they follow.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do.
Freedom isn't free. This time of year, give thanks and help our veterans.
Thank you for protecting our freedom.
It's professional.
For your sacrifices.
And that's why I come back when you're already sometimes going to meetings and he let some people talk and whatnot. It's like, it really should be. That's why when what's his name spoke, I didn't speak up, to defend myself because it's inappropriate.
Please donate today. Your gift will make a difference. Help us, help ours.
At Mount Carmel Veterans Service Center.
And we are back. I'm Tom Murphy, and this is Trinidad Now with Mayor Phil Rico. Took a little bit of a break there to get a drink of water and catch our breath. But you wanted to back up and fill in on something we spoke about.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about how the protocols and efforts to work with the state legislators. But you also have to work with your federal legislators.
Right.
And you have to get to know them. We have, currently we have Bennett, and we have Hickenlooper, but we also have Buck. And I do have a direct line to Bennett and Hickenlooper. I've never been able to get through to Buck.
Right.
But I don't bother them all the time. Now and then there's something I'll ask them about.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got to know Hickenlooper more so because of the Space Straight project. Bennett, I've had a couple of conversations and met him a couple of times. But for instance, a while back, we asked him to come to Trinidad for an event, but he couldn't make it because he was taking his son to college for the first time. So it was kind of neat because that's the type of relationship that I've developed with these people. And you develop those relations where you can speak freely with them and them freely with you.
Right.
And it'll pay dividends.
And so, your assessment is these relationships in the last 6 years have paid some dividends for Trinidad.
Oh, yes.
So, okay. Well, let's continue on. How about, and let me bring this up here. Let's go to Proposition 119.
That is a ballot issue that's upcoming in this election cycle, or this ballot issue, or this now in November. And it's a ballot issue that's going to be taxing, putting more tax onto the state's marijuana industry. Currently, the state of Colorado, for their part, they charge 15%. They want to raise that to, I believe, 19%. And 3% will start immediately if it passes, with another 1% in 2023, I believe. I may be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a very misguided issue or ballot issue, simply because it's an independent company that's going to control, an independent group that's going to be receiving this money. And the money is going to be used for students that are trying to learn from home, students that live out in rural areas that are that are struggling with their education. The only problem is they say that's money for them, but it's only for the first year. After the first year, it can be divided into affluent areas. So I recommend to people to really look at this 119 very, very deeply. The other issue that it's causing us is, like I said, currently the 15% that charge is going up to 19%. But now we have the New Mexico that has given the green light to sale for the sale of marijuana. So their tax is going to be 12% to start. They want to raise that over a period of many years up to, I think, 28% or 29%, or excuse me, 18 or 19% over a period of, I think, 6 years or 7 years. But if you look at the starting gate, now Trinidad starts, or Colorado has 15%. New Mexico has 12%. So now we're going to have the state that they raise that to 19%. The border towns are the ones that are going to get hit the hardest. I can see that it's not going to bother the bigger cities, Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Denver, Boulder, any of these places that might have marijuana sales. But it's going to hurt us more because we're getting, it's compounding the problem that we're going to have with the tax issue.
And losing the revenue.
And we're going to be losing the revenue. How much of that revenue we would lose, we don't know. If it was strictly the New Mexico that we have to deal with, we can combat that. We have ways that we could combat that. So it is a very big concern for me. Over this past week, I have called some of the mayors and people, city attorneys across the state. I've had conversation with 4 or 5 of them to see what their thoughts were. And some of them aren't really aware of it so much, but the ones that are, they are concerned.
Who's the group behind this?
I don't remember. I just got the name this morning, just to let you know, but I don't remember the name of it right now.
Okay.
But there is a non-prop group that is that are trying to combat that. They've been trying to reach out to the industry, to the cannabis industry, to see if they could help fund, non-prop 119, which they're trying to do. So I'm not sure how that funding is coming through them. What I did is I had our city clerk send out the information to all of the local cannabis industry owners here in Trinidad to see if they wanted to participate in this, to oppose this.
Right.
Because I think they also have a big stake in this.
So just so people know, approximately how much revenue is the city getting per year from marijuana?
Last year we got $4.5 million. And that's just the 5% that we have over and above the 4%. We have 4%, which is, if you go buy a candy bar, you pay 4%. This is 5% over and above that.
Right. If we hadn't done this, what sort of financial situation would the city be in, do you think?
We would be probably really struggling. And we might be breaking even now,
right,
with all of the tourism that's coming into the community. But there would still be some struggles there.
Don't you think with the Peak becoming a park, that hopefully will still draw in some people that still would be buyers of the cannabis?
Well, let's transition into Fisher's Peak a little bit.
Okay, let me find that one. I have to do the camera, the audio, and the questions. Okay, I brought it up.
So let's take a look, and I'll tie the two together. Fisher's Peak. When we started working on that in 2017, I never realized what it would grow into. And at first, we started out of purchasing 4,500 acres. Well, at that time,
and that is like pretty much the face.
That was the face, yes.
Right, of Fisher's Peak.
19,200 acres, because if you look at it, it's 19,200 acres that goes up to the face of the peak, but then up on top, there's 2 other state parks. And that's another 10,000, I'm guessing, acres. But then adjacent to that is the New Mexico Sugar Reed Basin. And so comprised altogether is close to 40,000 acres. So it's interesting that how this all began. Like we started out wanting to purchase the 4,500 acres. Well, once we got the Trust for Public Lands and the Nature Conservancy involved, back up just a little bit, when that thought came about of the 4,500 acres, when we met the first time around, which was Jay Chimino and myself, I took it to council and actually involved the city manager at the time. And I took it to the city council. We sat down and said, what do you guys think? I think this is a good proposition that if we can get into. Of course, there were a lot of deer in headlights looks, at that time. And at that time, it was going to be about $5 million. Well, you could deal with that. We could probably deal with it at that time. And after a little bit talking, they said, okay, we'll go for it. Well, come, I think, January, I may be wrong in the time frame. The guys from the Trust for Public Lands, they came into the picture and they said, well, why don't we just go after the entire 19,500 acres? And I said, okay, how are we going to do this? Because now we're looking at $5 million up to around $30 million.
Right.
Some reason or other, I felt that they were very trustworthy. I'm honest with the word that they said that they could raise the money. So I went back to city council. We sat down, and at that time we had a new city council because there was a change over the end of the year. And when I told them that, it's just like they all sat back in their chairs and said, almost like, what are you talking about?
I remember that.
And
I was there.
And I had to do some serious talking. And when I told them that I felt comfortable with what the Trust for Public Lands and Nature Conservancy were telling me, they said, let's try it.
Right.
Well, if you remember going way back when I decided to run for mayor, one of the things I mentioned is that without any risk, there's no benefit.
True.
And that's what I was basing that on. That we needed to take some risk there if we're going to move this community forward. And it's going to really be the basis, and that's where we talk about diversification of our economy. So if we lose some, that's why I say we could deal with this thing with New Mexico alone, because any revenue that we might lose from that part would be able to be picked up by the amount of tax that we would get from people coming into Fisher's Peak. Because a study was done by CU students about a year and a half ago. And the result was that we can get when it's all opened up, we can get between 50 to 100,000 tourists going up to the peak or wanting to tour the peak during the course of the year, to the tune of the estimation of around $13 million. So it would be able to pick up in the tax revenue, it would be able to pick up quite a bit there. So that's where I believe that one will offset the other. And then, of course, now we have the river thing we're going to talk about there in a minute.
Right.
But I believe that one of these, the loss of one taxable officer will be offset by the next one. And that's what I'm basing my thinking on. We knew that at some point New Mexico would okay the sale of marijuana. There's probably a matter of time before more states will. So we need to be able to look forward to say, okay, how are we going to compensate? Trinidad, like I said last night, Trinidad is, and I've heard this from a couple of people, not from Trinidad, say Trinidad is the rising star of communities in the state of Colorado today.
Right. And we've both lived through times where
yes, we have.
We've seen a boom and we've seen a bust. And we thought, wow, how are we ever going to come out of this? And now with the coal mine, as we talked about early on, and this, I mean, we're on our way.
Well, and that's interesting. We talk about the coal mines a little bit. I think they've anticipated that they would get close to 300 jobs
right
when they were fully opened. And that is one mine, and I'm not sure how, because they did buy the mineral deposits for a second parcel of land, which is anyway, it's right below Primero there.
Right.
So they have the capability of opening another mine there, but I'm not sure if it'll be transitioning the miners from one to the other or additional miners.
Right.
So the big issue there we have is housing.
Let's talk about that, and then we'll take a break, because that is a big issue.
Well, housing in Trinidad and all over the country, all over the country, is an issue. We are in particular, because of these jobs that are coming in, they're needing housing. Housing is not here. It is here to some degree, but maybe not quite enough. I may be wrong in the numbers, but I understand that there are approximately, they have like 80-something employees right now. And they're supposed to bring in another 80 employees, I'm not sure, here in the near future. So it's going to, it's going to increase the need for housing. The problem that we're having is that there may be a few rentals in town. There's some houses for sale. Some of the houses for sale may be of the higher end, where they may not be able to meet those standards to be able to pay for them. There's some that they probably could afford. Rentals are almost non-existent. I talked to one realtor a while back. He had 2 or 3 units, or a couple of units then, and he had some more that were coming open here, I think, this month. But what's happening is, as these come available, they're just snatched up in a heartbeat. Trying to get builders to come to this area and to any rural area right now is impossible. The big contractors from Pueblo, Springs, Denver, Amarillo, probably Albuquerque, what's happening right now is, I keep saying this, they're fat and sassy. They have all the work that they need in their, in their own communities, their own cities. So, and they're building multiple housing. Had a meeting night before last. The Colorado Municipal League, we had a regional meeting down there. Talking to one of the guys that was there, and he was from Pueblo, and he said what's happening is big companies are coming, they're buying up an entire block, and they're building the 30 or 40 or 50 houses in there. That's what they're looking for.
Right.
In comparison to just a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, they were happy building 1 or 2 or 3 houses a year. And that's why I say they're fat and sassy. Now they can build and go from one to the next to the next. The other problem that exists, it's getting a little better, is because of my background in the building materials industry. The cost up until probably May or June this year was so doggone high that I can understand why there was reluctance to build. I can go into the process because I understand.
You said the other night how much it was, and now it's 5 times that, I think.
Well, let me try to explain it this way. This is at the stock market level. Lumber is sold by the per thousand board feet. That's how it's done. So 2-3 years ago, even early 2020, the cost per thousand board feet was around, let's say, $400, $450 per square foot, okay, per thousand board feet. It shot up to $1,700 at the stock market level.
Oh.
Okay, and that was up until May of this year. That was
right
at the high point. But then you put in the middleman of that, like the Boise Cascades, the Warehousers. They tack on their other, $20 or $30 per thousand per board feet, and then it comes down to the retailer, and you got to tack on your margin of profit. So that $450 per thousand, we're probably selling at, let's say, $65 per thousand. Okay, but at that $1,700, now we're over $2,000 per board feet.
Right.
So a 2x4, for instance, was selling for, let's say, $3 or $4.
Right.
Was now selling for $9 or $10. A 2x4 8. Let's take a sheet of OSB. That's your oriented and strand board for sheeting.
I'm about to do that this next week.
It was selling it when I left. I think it was right around $12 per sheet, and that's a 1/2 inch thick.
Right.
I saw where they were selling that for almost $50, actually $50 per sheet.
Right.
Just this past May. Now it's dropped back down to, like I saw at Home Depot the other day, it was $14.50 a sheet.
Oh, really?
So it's come down within reason. I'm not sure where it's at today, but it's come down within reason. But The issue that still exists are twofold. One is the steel market has not adjusted itself back down.
Steel market.
The steel, like the rebar, any metal products, steel products that are out there. The other thing is the labor, because they're charging what they can charge.
Right. So is it possible for, even with, if you have a job in the coal mine, to afford to build a house with the salary you're going to get paid? Isn't that the conundrum?
That is a conundrum. I'm not sure what kind of monies are out there to help. If it's like first home time buyers,
right.
There might be some availability to help them pay for their down payment, for instance, down payment assistance. Of course, now they've got 30, 35-year notes. So it just depends,
right.
At what salary that they're at as to whether or not they can afford to build a house.
Well, let's take a little break here. Let me key up or take something down here. Where did it go? Oops. No, that goes back there. Again, I'm the camera guy and the audio guy, so we're going to take a short break.
This time of year, give thanks.
Yeah, I got to
help our veterans.
Thank you for protecting our freedom.
Thank you for your sacrifices.
Gracias al apoyo que dan a nuestra comunidad.
Thank you for keeping us safe.
Our veterans, America's heroes. They fought for our country. Now many fight for their lives. Please donate today. Your gift will make a difference. Help us, help ours.
At Mount Carmel Veterans Service Center.
Oops.
Lisa Camarillo here with Phil Long Toyota. Come sell me yours and I'll sell you mine. We want your trade. Plus, new Toyotas are arriving every day. Drive a brand new 2021 Toyota Camry, RAV4, or Tacoma with our one-pay lease offers. Just one payment of $15,000 for 36 months of worry-free driving.
Visit us today and get a cup of coffee on me, Lisa Camarillo.
Yes.
If we don't have it, we'll get it. Experience why Colorado drives Phil Long.
The best pre-owned deals are happening now at Phil Long Ford of Raton. We have 1,200 pre-owned vehicles to choose from. Payments from just $199 a month, just $199. Plus our goal, 100% credit approval. And this month only, enjoy summer with the $29.95 oil change. Visit us today or online anytime at ratonford.com. Get small town service and big city selection. If we don't have it, we'll get it. Experience why New Mexico drives Phil Long.
At Phil Long, we pride ourselves on the best customer experience.
Did I call Topar? Did I call the right number?
And sales.
I'm so happy that we were
it's
able
Tom
to
Murphy.
find
I'm
the
sorry.
right car, and we were able to go
we'll see
through
you
the
guys Monday
process
morning,
quickly and very easily.
Plus, we offer you the best brands: Ford, Chevy, Hyundai, Audi, Kia, Genesis, Lincoln, Toyota, Honda, and Mercedes-Benz.
And always the best deals. Experience
Didn't he go on his own?
Colorado drives Phil Long.
The best pre-owned deals are happening now at Phil Long Ford of
Kathy, Tom Murphy.
We have
I'll be out in a little bit. I
pre-owned
forgot
vehicles to
bring
choose from. Payments from just
so
$199 a month, just $199. Plus our goal, 100% credit approval. And this month only, enjoy summer with the $29.95 oil change. Visit us today or online anytime at ratonford.com. Get small town service and big city selection. If we don't have it, we'll get it. Experience why New Mexico drives Phil Long.
And I'm a regular customer of Coley's because that's some good stuff. We're back. So people are listening to us now. All right. So we have gone through Proposition 19. We talked about Fisher's Peak. We've talked about coal mine. We've talked about housing. There's several other things that we could talk about. Where would you like to go next? How about Amtrak?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. I might have that as I do. We'll bring that up. I like doing this. I get to do all of it. So I do the audio, video, and get to ask the questions. So Amtrak structure is what I have down here.
This is around 2014 timeframe. There was some money that had been allocated to build a structure. I'm not sure how much money had been allocated. But for whatever reason, I do know that it went away. I do know the reason.
We're talking about like a train depot type of thing for the people that are stopping here.
That are waiting for the train or getting off the train, waiting, just waiting. Because one of the complaints that I've heard is there's not even a place to sit down. We're having to sit in our cars.
Right.
So last year, being that I'm on the Southwest Chief Amtrak Commission, I've gotten to know those guys up there from Amtrak and CDOT. So I started inquiring, is there something that we can do? I said, if we have to buy a chair, I said, the city of Trinidad will buy the doggone chair. You just tell us what we have to do to put it there, because they're particular as to what they do. So we got into a conversation, and the conversation has gone on, and we are at the point now where they have allocated $350,000 for a structure of some sort. I've been talking to, like I said, it's both in CDOT's hands and Amtrak's hands. They're working together. From what I understand, in talking to my contact person from CDOT, because they, I guess, are actually holding the money, they are trying to find the contractor to do the work. And I guess there's particular contracts because they work with the railroads. So that's what they're trying to do right now. They actually had wanted to try to get started and get it done before the snow flies this year. I have not talked to them in probably 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
But I will make another call to them shortly to follow up to see where does this stand. But we need to have something there. And the other thing is when, I'm not sure if it was the highway or if it was when BNSF did all that new area there where the rails around are at now, they came to the city, and the city, we put in utilities up to a certain point to be able to tap into.
Right.
I've talked to Mike Valentine, and he said that's true. So I've talked to the people at CDOT to tell them to make sure that wherever they put this structure, that they put it accessible to where at some point, if this structure is increased to, let's say, where there's bathrooms or offices or whatever, that infrastructure will be there to tie into and directly, rather than having to move a whole doggone structure.
Right. So actually, some of this is coming back to me now. The conversations that happen. I think one of the big issues wasn't it's going to be an enclosed structure.
I have not seen the design on it, but I hope that it's partially enclosed or enclosed somewhat.
As I recall, I think the bigger issue was staffing.
Yes, it was staffing at the time.
So and so that'll be addressed.
I'm not sure if there's going to be any staffing there because there's not going to be sales out of there or anything like that. So I really don't know what they're looking at right now.
Okay.
I just do. My concern was to be able to at least get a structure that's available for people to get into.
Right.
Okay.
And of course, one of the big issues, and people have wanted for a long time, is it possible the rails up and down the Front Range, is that ever, or are they going to stop at Pueblo? Is that still going to happen?
Let's talk, because like I said, one of the things, like I said, I'm on the current Southwest Chief Amtrak Commission, and we've been working, I've been on there now 3 years, and they have upgraded the rail system all except for 35 miles, which right now we do have we've applied for a grant that will finish off that rail upgrade. And that will come all the way, and it goes all the way from part of Kansas into Colorado and all the way down to Lamy, New Mexico. So they're upgrading all of that. And I forget, it's in the eastern part of Colorado, that last 35 mile section. So transitioning over to what will happen next, we have been talking about a through car service, because the big thing is they want to be able to come in from, if you come in from the East Coast,
right?
Because it comes out of Chicago. Amtrak comes out of Chicago, comes into Lahaina, and from there it comes down into Trinidad currently. Well, what they want to do now is they want to go from Lahaina, go to Pueblo, and of course up to Pueblo, Colorado Springs, and all the way into Cheyenne at some point in time. So that is what's going to happen with this new Senate Bill 238 that was just approved by.
Let me bring that one up, because we'll transition to that.
Okay.
Well, okay. All right.
Because it all kind of ties together.
Okay.
And the Senate 238 is the new district that now encompasses all the entire Front Range from Wyoming all the way to New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And everything within a 5-mile distance of the Highway 20 of I-25, and that's going to be your district. So what's going to happen is they'll come from, like I said, let's say from Denver to come into Colorado Springs. Pueblo's going to be a main station into Lahaina, and then of course back east, and then of course anybody that wants to go west got to double back through here,
right,
and go down into New Mexico and then go west. I have been talking to them and saying, what we need to do is, once that's all said and done, that we then get a straight line, once from Pueblo to come to straight to Trinidad.
Right.
And the reason being is, let's say you're in Denver and you want to go to California. Well, it's going to take an extra few hours if you got to divert into Lahaina,
right,
and then back through here. So if it's a straight shot, it's much better. Let's say you're going to Chicago. Well, you go to Lahaina and then you go to Chicago.
Right.
So it makes sense that they make that straight line rail down the road. I know it's going to be a few years down the road, but that is what I keep pushing for. There's a lot of intricacies with that, because they've estimated that this entire project it's a pretty big spread here.
Right.
It's going to cost between $7 to $14 billion when it's all said and done.
Okay.
So it's going to take several years besides that.
Right.
I know there's been some questions from the county commissioners, because one of the things is that eminent domain, and they wanted actually they asked me when I talked to them several months ago. This is before 238 was signed, and they opposed it because they were scared of eminent domain. Well, as you know, that anytime you have a taxing district of any kind, that it has to include eminent domain. I don't care if it's federal, state, city.
Right.
We have that within the city. They're concerned that they're going to come and take property away from the people that own land here in Los Angeles County. But here's the thing: is that was put in there in the event that, let's say, and I don't see it happening at all here in Trinidad, because there's enough room if there has to be another rail siding.
So they're not going to use the existing rail?
They probably, that's the whole discussion is can it be a shared use of a rail line?
Okay.
So it could very well be, but it would be upgraded. So the eminent domain portion, like I said, is, let's say Almoro wanted to build a railroad station there. Well, they're within 5 miles of I-25. So they would have to go to all of the landowners to say, do you want to give us an easement, or do you oppose this, or whatever? So that's where that would come into play. But I just don't see that happening.
Right.
There's just too much land, open land here. If you go up I-25, there's a lot of land that's adjacent to the rail system right now that they could spread into.
Okay.
So I just don't see that happening. There were a couple of other issues that they had. One was there was a bond issue that they can go out and sell bonds, and the initial language was they could it was either public or private sale. So they asked me to go back, and I went back to the people that were doing the language of it, and I said, why don't we change that to be private and public sale of bonds? So they changed that.
Okay.
And things like, there was a couple of minor changes that went on through this whole process.
So if this were to actually happen, what would that do for our community too?
Well, let's take a look at, let's say, right now we're looking at Trinidad to become a destination for recreation. We saw what happened just this last weekend.
Right.
With the amount of bikers that were
here. We'll transition into that.
And twofold with this new district that we're working on. Let's look at the safety factor of a rail system. Right now, let's say you're going in the middle of winter up to Denver, and it snows bad. What would be safer, going by rail or going by car? Rail is a safer mode of travel.
Right.
The other thing is those people that travel from, let's say, Pueblo to Colorado Springs or from Denver or from Colorado Springs to Denver to work. They could save money, they could save time, their vehicles, they could work on the train.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that it's going to do is there was a report given to us last on the current commission that every year, I think I may be wrong exactly, but there were like 50 million tons of emissions by vehicles alone in the state of Colorado. And if you take the majority of that tonnage is probably along the I-25 corridor.
Right.
So if you took a lot of those cars off that, the emission could be reduced substantially.
Well, I remember when I came to Colorado in the late 70s and early 80s, it was brown cloud.
The brown clouds, yeah.
And even Pueblo from the steel plant.
Right.
And thanks to, cleaning up the environment, it's made a huge difference.
Yeah. We do need to do something.
But how about this? Let's take one more short break and we'll organize and wrap this up. But let me bring up a commercial and we'll just take a couple minutes.
At Philong, we pride ourselves on the best
So
customer experience in
we still have the Justice Crime Initiative.
I'm so happy
and
that
then
we were able
whatever
to find
else
the right car and we were
and we
able
were doing what?
to
We're
go
at
through the
51 minutes. I
process
did
quickly
40-something
and
last
very
week,
easily.
Plus, we offer you the best brands: Ford,
Chevy,
Hyundai, Audi, Kia, Genesis.
It's something
Lincoln,
I think we should
Toyota,
talk about.
Honda, and
is
Mercedes-Benz.
Really,
and always the best.
I'm not in favor of this right now, but it's almost turning into a full-time job. And if you
freedom isn't free.
If you're not doing it,
thanks and help our
I mean,
the
thing that got me is I've heard
you for your
from different people through the years of different things that were missed because Soltis and other people just didn't bother. They call them and say, "Hey, this is happening," and they never followed up.
They fought for our
So
country.
it's like what you're
Now
saying
many
is
fight
like,
for their
oh my
lives.
God. That's
Please
why I
donate
asked,
today.
how much
Your
did you
gift
miss
will make
out
a
on?
difference. Help us, help ours.
At Mount Carmel
I'm
Veterans
on this
Service
Colorado Municipal League policy.
Lisa Camarillo here with Phil Long Toyota. Come sell me yours and I'll sell you mine. We want your trade. Plus, new Toyotas are arriving every day. Drive a brand new 2021 Toyota Camry, RAV4, or Tacoma with our one-pay lease offers. Just one payment of $15,000 for 36 months of worry-free driving.
Visit us today and get a cup of coffee on me, Lisa Camarillo.
If we don't have it, we'll get it. Experience why Colorado drives Phil Long.
The best pre-owned deals are happening now at Philong Ford of Raton. We have 1,200 pre-owned vehicles to choose from. Payments from just $199 a month, just $199. Plus our goal, 100% credit approval.
10
this month
seconds
only.
or so.
Enjoy summer with the $29.95 oil change. Visit us today or online anytime at ratonford.com. Get small town service and big city selection. If we don't have it, we'll get it. Experience why New Mexico drives
Let's follow up with
Philong.
that, though, just how I mean, you kind of touched on it, but hey, folks, we're back. I'm Tom Murphy with Phil Rico, current mayor and candidate for mayor again for what would be a fourth term.
Yes.
The way it's broken down into 2-year terms. We're getting close to the end. One of the topics that we had put into our queue, and I'm going to bring it up here, is the Justice Crime Prevention Initiative.
As we all know, crime is a major issue for any municipality, including Trinidad. There are people that are incarcerated. There are some people that have been just put on probation for a number of reasons. And a lot of these people, especially that are incarcerated, some of them will be coming out. So a lot of times they come out and they have, they have good backgrounds. They're good carpenters, they're good electricians, they're plumbers. They have qualifications to do different things. They're very good at it, but they don't know how to. They don't know where to go for help, I guess you could say. So there was an initiative that was introduced by our Representative Senator Holt, our Congressman, House Representative Holtorf this last year, and there was I'm not sure, I can't remember if she is a senator or if she is a Representative Zinzinger or something like that in Denver. So they put forth this House Bill 21-1215, and it is called the Crime get my crime. This is the Justice Crime Prevention Initiative. Currently, it is being used in, I think, Aurora and Colorado Springs. They've been using that. So these two legislators wanted to try to implement it somewhere else in Colorado. Well, Representative Holtorf, I guess, said, well, I'd like to introduce it to two areas. One is Grand Junction and one is Trinidad. So the whole process went through the committees and all this stuff. I was asked to testify in favor of it. The day that testimony came up, I had to do it virtually, remotely from my home. I was supposed to testify, I think it was like at 1 o'clock. Debbie Wagner was kind of controlling that because she was watching the movement of how soon it was coming in. So she called me up and said, I don't think you're going to testify till probably 3 or 4 o'clock. I said, okay. 3 or 4 o'clock comes around and she calls me and says, well, it's going to be more like 4:30 or 5. And I said, okay. So at 5 o'clock, I jumped on, and there was another bill before me that was kind of interesting, so I listened to it. But it went on till 1:45. That's when I was able to testify.
Oh my! 11 hours later.
Yeah, 11 hours later.
Wow.
So anyway, what this bill does is it will bring into Trinidad $350,000 for crime prevention, and to help these people that are being incarcerated, people that are on probation. And I'm looking to hopefully maybe we can expand that to go to the schools and say, tell them what can be done to keep you out of jail or prison or whatever. I'm hoping that maybe we can expand it into that, so that these people will have the ability to, they'll even support them with, I think, grants if they want to start their own business. But they will also teach them how to start a business, how to run a business. You know what it's like to run a business, how to build a business. And a lot of times people fail because they don't know. They say they want to do something, but once they get into it, they don't understand the intricacies and the involvement that you have to have. So what this is going to do is, it had to be a foundation or a third-party administrator to administer these funds, to use these funds. Well, we have the Trinidad Community Foundation here in Trinidad. So what was interesting about this is they were only going to give that entity only 3% to administer the funding. So the lady that came down, we had this in open session. I asked her, I said, because she was, I'm not sure if she's from Aurora. I asked her, I said, when you started this, was that 3% enough? And she said, no, it wasn't. And I said, well, I think that needs to be increased. So I said, she said, well, what do you think that should be? And I said, 10 to 15%. And I said, there was a little bit, back and forth on that after the meeting. Mm-hmm. And I actually told him, I said, maybe that 3% could be after the fact, but that 10% to build, the structure going forward, it's going to take a lot of time and money. So talk to Lou, who's the chairman of the...
Lou Simpleman.
Yeah, Lou Simpleman of the Trinidad Community Foundation. And I said, what do you guys think? So now we were able to get 8% out of that year after year after year. This is a pilot program for up to 3 years. I think it's 3 years. And if it shows that it has promise, they want to extend that further into the future. So what it's going to do is try to work with these people that are incarcerated, that are coming out, or that have come out, and they need help. So I think this can be a good thing for Trinidad. The foundation is going to partner with a third-party administrator from Colorado Springs, so together they're going to be working on this, because the one in Colorado Springs, they're already doing this, so they know what it's like. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be, and the other thing is, being that we have the what's the name of that group here in Trinidad for exactly what it is, but there's a group in Trinidad that the opioid group.
Okay.
That's I can't remember it, but anyway, they have a group that they've been talking about working on the opioid problem here in Trinidad, and all that crime as well. I talked to Lou and I mentioned maybe this group can be part of this. So he's going to approach them, I guess, and talk to them and see it. And I've actually talked to them already, and they're very, very interested in doing this. So together it could be a win-win situation.
Yeah. So if you think back to all things we've just talked about, wow, you've got a lot of irons in the fire.
That's just a few of them.
Right. And thankfully you're retired.
Yes. Couldn't do this if I was working.
And it's not, the mayor position is not considered a full-time job, but really we've been blessed in the fact that you are retired, and you really have gone above and beyond, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yes.
In doing this job.
Oh, yes. Matter of fact, this week alone, it's been, crazy. I woke up at 2:30 yesterday morning, and was working doing some stuff.
Right.
And that's why, to some degree, I was on my A game last night.
Right.
Because I was tired.
Yeah.
But that's not uncommon for me to wake up in the middle of the night.
Oh, you're talking about Meet the Candidates last night. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon for me to. It's Saturday, it's Sunday.
Right.
I get approached with questions at Safeway, Walmart, at church. Some people come up to me, right? I'm sitting in my pew at church.
Right.
And they're saying, this is broken. Why can't you guys do this?
Right.
And it's Saturdays, it could be Sundays. So it's not a few hours a week.
Right. Pueblo and Colorado Springs both went from a council form of government to mayoral form of government. Is it, and was not an advocate of that, but I'm starting to wonder, in that position, the mayor is like the city manager. And there's always questions of putting somebody elected that if that's possible. But you've certainly, on your own behalf, almost made it a full-time job. You're not paid, nor any of the council members. And I've spoken. I said, you guys, it's time for a raise. But is it maybe something to consider that maybe not necessarily making a mayoral form of government, but maybe it's time to somehow form it so that it's a bit more of a full-time job?
Yeah, and then let me give you a little. And that could very well be true. But let me. You talked about a mayoral form of and a city manager or a manager type of organization. Right. I know Pueblo's done it, Colorado Springs has done it. I'm sure there might be other municipalities that have done it as well. But I really see that there are actually two different positions, completely different positions.
From city manager.
From a city manager. Well, as far as a mayor. Your mayor is your face of your community. I'm the person that goes out and I meet these legislators. I'm the person that gets involved in several different organizations across the state, in the community. I'm the one that talks to all these people. I go up to the state capitol and talk to these, and make and just call people.
Mm-hmm.
So doing that is completely separate from your city manager. Your city manager is day to day. They do the day-to-day relationships and all the work that has to go along with that. So if you try to incorporate the two, unless you have a good assistant, which here in Trinidad, we could probably not afford an assistant. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why Pueblo and Springs have done it, because they're big enough municipalities where they've been able to hire an assistant for their mayor to do some of the other stuff. But if you look at the two and you put the two together, they're almost controversial.
True.
So that's where I'm coming from. But at this level here in this municipality, they need to be separate.
Right. So maybe, Mayor, if you're reelected, maybe, because then there would be a conflict of interest, maybe one of the things you could spend the next 2 years of, and I don't think it would necessarily take a change of the charter, but maybe it's something that you should lay the groundwork for saying, if we really want to not exploit, but benefit from somebody in this position, maybe the job description should be rewritten. That wouldn't require a charter change, but just something for thought, because you've changed what people do in this position.
I feel like I have changed it, because one of the things that I did is when I decided to run for mayor 6 years ago, I went to my family and I asked them, what do you think? And my wife, of course, is the most important person there.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, she said, Phil, if you decide to run for mayor, you get elected, I will support you.
Mm-hmm.
And she has supported me 100%. And sure, she gets a little upset sometimes because I'm gone, I'm here, I'm gone. And the day can be from, I may not have something to do at 8 o'clock in the morning, but I get a phone call and, can you come and do this? Or can I meet with this? Or can I meet with you here? So you have to be very flexible. So it's not a 4 or 5 hour a week where you just go to meetings. It's a lot of planning. It's a lot of thinking up here. That's where I spend a lot of my time at home. I'm sitting in my chair, and my wife's saying, "What are you thinking, Phil?" And I said, "Well, I'm sitting there writing stuff down." Then you're planning for next meetings. You have all your other meetings that you're involved with. For instance, some of the things that I'm involved with, just to let you know, and I'll read these off to you. Like I said, I've already mentioned that I'm on the Southwest Chief Commission, and that's a once a month meeting, but you get a lot of reading material on that. There's also a Colorado Rail Commission that I try to listen in on their meeting when they have it. That's a monthly meeting.
Right.
I'm one of the liaisons to Fort Carson, and whenever a meeting comes up, I attend their meetings. There's something coming up this next week that I'm attending. I'm on the Action 22 board representing Trinidad. We have a conference coming up next week, and that came about a year ago. I attended the meeting. At that time, they were talking about where to take the next meeting to, and they were talking about, I think, Salida. So I went up to Sarah Blackhurst and I said, "Have you guys ever considered Trinidad?"
Right.
"Well, we can do that." "Well, we're having it here this next week."
Okay.
And there'll probably be 150 people here. Some of them may bring their wives. There might be 300 people here in town. I'm the tourism board liaison. I'm the representative to the Colorado Municipal League, which I was talking about earlier, and that takes some reading. I'm also on the Fisher's Peak leadership because I was one of the originators coming with Fisher's Peak deal, and we have a large meeting coming up this next week. I'm a Bustelo board member of the Trinidad Community Foundation, and one of the things that I've done in the past that I was pretty proud of. There's other things that I'm doing, but in 2014, every 4 years they have a rural philanthropy days. And I volunteered for that. I was not mayor at that time, and I volunteered to work with them. Well, they wanted me the fundraising chairman, and I did, and we raised $60,000.
Oh.
So, all this stuff takes time.
Right.
And if you're not dedicated to this job, you're not going to make the impact that is necessary for this community.
Wow, that's a lot. Is there anything left to talk about?
The only thing I want to talk about is everything that we've discussed today. As you could probably look into it, there's opportunities, there's challenges. We have challenges. We have our infrastructure. It's an aging infrastructure. It's going to cost $100 million, who knows, in the near future, to upgrade all the infrastructure from water to sewer to electricity to even the ADA that we're doing now, which we are compelled to do by ADA,
right.
The DOJ settlement that we have. So those are things that it's just going to take a lot of time. But there's also some opportunity in everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And like I tell council people, and you probably have heard me because you film all of our city council meetings. And a while back I told council, wherever you go, whatever meeting you're at, keep your ears open, because something will spark your thought. Maybe that could happen in Trinidad. And that has happened twice in the last year. Last year when I went to that Action 22 meeting in Pueblo, there was a lady from CSU, and we were talking, and she was talking about some of the things that they do at CSU, and that's the CSU, Fort Collins, and Pueblo. And I said, I'm going to set up a meeting with you. So I did. Out of that meeting came about that there's some stuff that could be done through the college and possibly through Julie Knutsen's program in Trinidad. And currently what's happening is they have been talking with Dr. Epper for a program or two at the college here. So, and it's just because I paid attention. Earlier this summer, I was at another meeting for Action 22, and there was a guy by the name of Antonio Martinez, and he is the governor's appointee, I guess, for, I guess, fiber optics, all that type of stuff. So I told him afterwards, do you have a card? I said, I want to talk to you. So he gave me a card. I came back and I talked to Mike. I said, let's talk to this guy.
Right.
So we set up a meeting. We had a meeting with him. And the reason being is that I told him, I said, I've been recognizing there's a new fiber optic line or broadband line that is coming, north or south right next to Trinidad. I said, would there be an opportunity to maybe tie into that line in the near future? He said, there's a possibility. So through this meeting that we had, he said, there is a good opportunity there. So we actually, Mike Valentine and I, are having a meeting with their broadband guru, I guess you'd call him. His name is Bob Pfeiffer. And we're having a meeting with him this next week. So that there's going to be, if we are able to tie in, it's going to save the residents here a lot of money on internet.
So is that possible then? And I don't completely understand broadband, but does that mean that the city might become its own utility? Is that the right?
That's where I was going.
Okay.
Is that this line will be able to tie in. But then, and like I said, I kind of got this a little bit. I guess what we'll have to do is develop some kind of a loop system.
Oh, I remember you guys talking about that. That's right.
Do a loop system around the city.
Above ground or below ground
or both or whatever.
Right.
So at that point, you'll be able to tie in all the residences and business in the city.
Right.
And as we know that there's, a lot of people want to move to Trinidad.
Right.
There are people that want to move to Trinidad because they want to get out of the big cities, but yet they're still working. So they can still work remotely.
Right.
So as a business owner, how many times you get on and you're working, all of a sudden you get dropped.
Right.
So broadband is the thing of the future. And I look at if we're going to raise the level of service and also be able to provide an opportunity for growth for this community, broadband, I just keep saying this, it's kind of the cog in the wheel.
Right.
You provide that and you'll be able to attract these people that want to come live here for a quality of life.
Right. Well, with what I do, loading video, my previous, although I'm still using them for some things, but the company A, my upload speed was maybe 10 or 15 megs. And now this company B, it's 100. And so when I have to load this, what used to take several hours now is in 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the difference. It's the speed and the capabilities. So maybe to sum that up, essentially is if you're the mayor and you're waiting for the state and other people to come knock on your door, you're missing out. Right. Unless you're out knocking on the door and listening and knowing what's going on, right?
Exactly. That's why I say you go to these meetings, you cannot just sit back and just hum and haw.
Right.
You have to pay attention.
Yeah.
For opportunity. That's where opportunities come in.
And that's why I talked early on is, do you think we missed some? And it's speculation on everybody's part. Whether we did or not doesn't matter. But moving forward, it's like whether it's you or whomever else, they need to be paying attention to opportunities. Yeah. I think we've covered a lot of things, and I think I've interviewed you before. The way I like to wrap it up is this camera is on you, and if you want to just turn the camera and wrap it up and just and tell people or ask people to vote for you and whatever it is you have to say to sum it up.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Tom, for inviting me to speak with you today and getting interviewed. And for those of you that are listening out there, hope that thank you for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. I believe that what I have done in the past 6 years has made an impact in our community. And if elected again, I will continue to do what I've done in the past until my time is up. And hopefully that a lot of the work that I and as well as the other council people have laid, and we have laid I believe that we are laying the foundation for the next generation of people that will come behind us to build to continue to build on the economy, on the diversification that we want and need in this community. So, like I said, I ask for your vote because I believe that I will, and I know I will continue to do the best job that I can. And like my motto here says that I have committed to our community yesterday and tomorrow. I truly believe in that very much so. Oops.
Mayor, thank you very much. It's an honor.
Thank you.
I do film all the meetings and been doing this for 16 years, and I actually like being over there. I mean, I enjoy the staff and everything, and it's nice to really. I know what's going on in the community, and I think some people are missing out. I see the thing that's going on in the tourism board, of planning and zoning, and it's like government is fascinating. It really is, and it's local, and I wish more people would become more active. I mean, the turnout last night from the candidates was depressing, and only having 3 people run for 3 spots. Just dropped my phone. That's disturbing. Yeah. I hope it's a sign that some of the things have calmed down. When there's some controversy, we had more people running. It could be a good sign. Maybe. I don't know. Time will tell. But anyway.
The only thing I did not cover here is I just wanted to talk about our staff and how.
We're still on, so let's wrap it up with that.
Let's wrap up with something here I wanted to comment on, which, without, even though we are council people, I'm the mayor, you need a good staff. And we have Mike Valentine, who is our city manager, and we have Audra Garrett, who is our city clerk. But behind them people are all the other people, all the way down to the people that are cleaning the streets and the sewer departments and the electrical department. We have an excellent staff, and they are willing to work with anybody that comes through those doors or call up. And as long as the biggest thing is respect. If we respect our public, where they come to talk to us at city council, and our staff will do the same thing. So I was going to say that the city of Trinidad has a staff that is working for you, the public, and they do the best job that they possibly can.
Cool. With that, we're gonna put up my little Trinidad Now sign, and we are gonna call it a day. Thank